Not all heroes carry swords, some carry a simple glass vial. This scene introduces us to the healer. It's not just a job, it is a philosophy. As the text explains, their true strength isn't magic, but a solemn vow to serve the people with pure devotion. We start with a moment of isolation. The protagonist, Leaf, sits with his expression hidden in shadow. But the silence is broken. The sound effects tell us a sliding door is being pulled open, revealing a gentle elder figure. She respectfully asks permission to enter, signaling a shift from solitude to connection. Our story begins here, with Chapter 1, The Frontier Healer. We are taken to the edge of civilization, to a remote village ominously named Dead End. But despite the name, that massive tree in the center suggests this is where a new life is about to bloom. The scene opens on a peaceful note, with a neighbor apologizing for always troubling our main character, Leaf. We see the elderly couple departing the clinic grounds, walking past the stables. Their relaxed expressions and warm smiles tell us everything Leaf's help was successful, and he is deeply trusted here. The stables. Inside the clinic, the interaction shifts from professional to personal. Leaf casually prepares a remedy, actively brushing off the woman's profound gratitude. The close-up here reveals his true nature. With a genuine, blushing smile, he insists on their friendship, making it clear that to him, healing Granny Merlin is an act of care, not just a job. Suddenly, the vibe snaps. The background drops into pitch black with intense speed lines. The art style mimics a high-stakes RPG battle UI. It looks like he's about to unleash a limit break. But his ultimate move isn't an attack. It's a precision strike of mercy, the painkiller. Leaf goes the extra mile here, thoughtfully packing medicine for her husband, Arthur. Without even being asked, he brushes off the praise with a humble, happy smile. He clearly loves his community, but that wholesome peace is shattered instantly. A sudden shout, "Hold it, Leaf," stops him dead in his tracks. Here comes the chaos. A mysterious girl bursts onto the scene, screaming with enough intensity to create visible shockwaves. Leaf is completely blindsided, shouting a confused "What?" while Granny Merlin freezes in total surprise. In a split second, the quiet atmosphere is shattered by this energetic new arrival. Think all healers are kind? Think again. The newcomer, Doku, is absolutely losing it over a business hour violation. Even as Merlin explains her hip pain, Doku doesn't hold back, hurling insults like "old hag" and pointing at the clock. It's a brutal contrast to Leaf's kindness, proving that in this village, some healers are strictly business. Leaf finally steps in to shield the grandmother, physically cutting off the verbal abuse. But the girl explodes with a surprising revelation. She isn't just being cruel for fun. She's angry because she thinks Leaf's kindness is being exploited. Her aggression is actually a twisted form of protection. Instead of arguing back, Leaf immediately switches tactics to desperate negotiation. He begs for time and pulls out his secret weapon, bribery. He promises to make dessert if she just waits. It shows that for Leaf, keeping the peace is worth any price, even if it means cooking extra sweets. The dessert bribe worked. Doku begrudgingly agrees to the delay, seemingly letting Leaf off the hook. But just as she turns to leave, she stops cold to deliver a final message. Her look turns deadly serious. She reminds him that the truce is temporary. She hasn't forgotten that he lets people walk all over him. As they walk away, Granny drops a massive piece of lore. That angry girl, Doku? She is the granddaughter of the legendary master Asclepius. It explains her high standards, even if her attitude shocks the locals. While Granny questions the lineage, Leaf quietly apologizes for the chaos, remaining humble to the very end. Here's the major plot twist. That aggressive girl, Doku, she isn't just a rival, she is Leaf's childhood friend and potential fiancé. Granny Merlin is rightfully skeptical, but Leaf gets flustered, insisting they are just friends for now. But his defense reveals his true character. He knows she is suffering, and his goal is simply to be strong enough to support her. The conversation takes a heavy turn. Granny Merlin stops walking to ask the question that's been weighing on her mind. She challenges Leaf's contentment, asking if he is truly satisfied living his life in this remote village. With a look of regret, She voices the truth they both know. Leaf has the talent to be something far greater than just a village doctor. Granny pushes harder here, insisting that Leaf is far too talented to stay trapped in this desolate village. But notice the visual storytelling. The camera focuses on his feet firmly planted on the ground. He laughs off the compliment and refuses to move, revealing that his loyalty is anchored by a deep debt to the master who took him in. The visual composition changes here, placing Leaf as the steadfast guardian directly between the viewer and the clinic. He declares his true purpose. It's not just about healing, it's about honoring a debt to his master. This moment cements his character arc. He chooses duty and legacy over fame and fortune. After the emotional weight of the day, the scene shifts to absolute tranquility. Leaf is sound asleep in a room scattered with books, a subtle detail showing that his dedication to learning continues even off duty. The soft lighting and deep breathing sounds emphasize that even a devoted healer needs time to recharge. That peaceful nap is violently interrupted as Doku storms in, yelling at him to wake up. But there's a twist. She's wearing a stunning evening gown. Leaf is totally confused by the sudden outfit change, while Doku shifts from anger to a teasing, mysterious smirk, clearly up to something. The reason for the elegant dress is revealed with a crushing blow. Doku cheerfully announces that she's married a lord, striking a pose that contrasts brutally with the bottom panel. We see Leaf's world crumble as he stands there, frozen in total, silent shock. Leaf rushes down the stairs, stammering in confusion, but the bottom panel reveals the reality hitting him. His sanctuary is being invaded. Strangers in formal wear are systematically dismantling and packing up his clinic, leading to his desperate, confused shout, "What is going on here?" The heartbreaking reality sets in with the cold declaration, "You're too late," as the mysterious figures walk away, leaving Leaf defeated on the floor. They take the one thing that matters most. Leaf's desperate cry reveals the devastating truth. They aren't just taking items. They are stealing his master's journal, the very soul of his legacy. Defeated on the floor, Leaf watches his world collapse. Doku leans in with a terrifyingly manic energy to deliver the final verdict. The apothecary is no longer his. She gleefully announces that starting today, his master's legacy is the legal property of Lord Okaran. And here is the face of the takeover. Baron Okaran, Sin Vatslak, enters with a flamboyant, smug grin that screams entitlement. His polished noble attire contrasts brutally with the humble surroundings, instantly establishing him as the arrogant antagonist Leaf now has to face. The Baron flaunts his victory, pulling Dakyuna close to declare them a perfect match while she swoons in his arms. It's a deliberate display of dominance. The scene then cuts to a wide shot that physically positions Leaf beneath them, reinforcing his powerlessness as the Baron looks down his nose and dismisses him as just the aforementioned brat. But the Baron explains the cruel logic. By marrying Doku, he legally inherits her grandfather's entire estate. The clinic is now his property. Leaf snaps, screaming nay, in a desperate attempt to defend his master's legacy against this hostile takeover. The mask completely slips off here, with heavy shading covering half his face to symbolize his twisted nature. The Baron unleashes his true greed. He screams classist insults, manic and unhinged, as he gloats that every last thing now belongs to him, finalizing the total theft of Leaf's life. Leaf stares in disbelief, the sheer absurdity of the betrayal finally hitting him. As he sits crumpled on the floor muttering ridiculous, the villains literally laugh in his face, their celebratory mocking highlighting just how isolated and powerless he has become. Leaf is left sitting in the wreckage of his life, listing off everything that's being stolen: his memories, his tools, and the people he served. The visuals darken to match his internal spiral before zooming in on his trembling grit, capturing the raw agony of a man asking the universe, "Why is this happening?" Leaf finally hits rock bottom. Collapsing to his knees and clutching his chest as if physically wounded, he screams out in pure desperation. The high camera angle emphasizes his total helplessness, pitting his raw, emotional explosion against the cold, unmoving figure standing dominantly above him. Dakyuna delivers the final, crushing blow here. She screams that the apothecary is hers by blood, but she doesn't stop there. She brutally invalidates Leaf's entire existence, screaming that he is just an abandoned kid with absolutely no claim to the legacy, leaving him completely stunned. She twists the knife further, telling him he's worthless and would die alone without her. But then comes the fake mercy. She crouches down, touching his face like he's a pet, and delivers the ultimate insult. She'll let him stay in his own home, but only as their servant. We end on a powerful close-up of absolute defeat. Leaf's eyes are completely shrouded in shadow, the universal manga symbol for a broken spirit. The hand forcing his chin up isn't a gesture of comfort. It represents his total loss of autonomy, physically forcing him to look into the face of his new reality. But Leaf's response shatters her power play. Instead of begging or fighting, he simply turns his back, muttering, "Do whatever you want," and walks away. Dakyuna is left totally stunned. She expected resistance or gratitude, but his complete apathy is something she can't control, forcing the Baron to finally step in and cut her off. Leaf walks into the blinding light, his silhouette shrinking as he leaves. The villains dismiss him as a weakling best left alone, but the composition emphasizes his total isolation. He isn't fighting back anymore. He is simply vanishing, accepting his exile, and leaving his master's legacy behind in the darkness. A painful memory echoes here. His master's voice joyfully praises him, promising his teachings will be useful, but the visuals tell a tragic story. Leaf walks away in total silence, his face hidden in shadow, realizing that those invisible lessons are now the only inheritance he has left. We flash back to a pivotal memory bathed in soft light. The master isn't just teaching, he's nurturing, promising young Leaf a bright future. This line is the emotional anchor, reminding us that while Leaf lost the shop, the potential his master saw in him remains the one thing they couldn't steal. The camera lingers on his clenched fist, trembling with emotion, proof that his silence wasn't apathy, but painful restraint. As he leaves, the warm memory of his master's laughter and affectionate head pats plays on a loop, contrasting the cruel reality with the loving home he's now forced to leave behind. The stoic mask finally shatters. Alone and broken, Leaf isn't just crying. He is mourning his failure. The intense close-up emphasizes his flushed, tear-streaked face as he whispers a heartbreaking apology to his master, believing he has let down the only person who ever believed in him. Exiled to the woods, Leaf faces a harsh dilemma. He refuses to go to Granny Merlin's, terrified of being a burden to the only person who cares. As he sits alone on a pile of rocks, the camera zooms in on his defeated posture, capturing the crushing realization that he is now truly homeless with nowhere to turn. Lying in the dirt, Leaf finally confronts the truth he's been avoiding. Granny Merlin's words echo in his mind, insisting he was meant for greatness, for beyond this village. With the clinic gone, her advice shifts from a gentle suggestion into his only remaining path forward. But that somber reflection instantly explodes into panic. Leaf clutches his head, screaming in total denial. The intense speed lines amplify his terror as his imposter syndrome kicks in hard. He is convinced that a simple country boy like him has absolutely zero chance of surviving in the big city. Leaf's panic about being homeless hits a fever pitch, but it's suddenly cut short. A sharp close-up on his eyes marks the shift his instincts trigger as he catches a mysterious scent on the wind, snapping him out of his despair and pulling him towards something hidden in the forest. Leaf follows the scent into the clearing and freezes. He stumbled onto a silent battlefield. Armored knights lie scattered and defeated around a mysterious carriage. Amidst the carnage, his eyes lock onto the lone survivor slumped against the tree, waiting to be found. Leaf rushes to the groaning survivor, his healer instincts taking over immediately. But as he inspects the injury, the scene shifts from medical to mystery. The limb hasn't been cut by a sword, it's been savagely torn apart. Leaf's terrified expression confirms the dark reality. This wasn't a bandit attack, it was a monster. Leaf discovers more survivors, but they don't see a savior, they see a child. The desperate girl begs him to run back to Dead End to fetch a healer, completely unaware that the expert she's praying for is already standing right in front of her. Leaf shuts down the panic instantly, calmly stating, "That won't be necessary." He pops open his medical pouch, leaving the warrior completely confused. She asked for a doctor, not a child. But Leaf ignores the doubt, crouching down to get to work immediately. Instead of a magical staff or a glowing potion, Leaf reveals his weapon of choice, a simple handful of medicinal herbs. The confusion is immediate, represented by the skeptical as these city folk clearly expected high-level magic, not raw plants from a village boy. Leaf ignores the confusion and immediately gets to work. The sharp sound effect emphasizes the action. He is physically crushing the fresh herbs with his bare hands. This raw, manual extraction proves his method isn't about flashy magic, but about the deep, practical application of his knowledge. But those simple herbs trigger a blinding reaction. A sudden burst of light and floating liquid energy fills the screen, stunning the onlookers. The exclamation mark highlights their collective shock. They dismissed him as a nobody, but he's performing a miracle right there in the dirt. The reaction shot says it all. The girl is left wide-eyed and blushing, completely captivated by the miracle she just witnessed. But then we cut to Leaf, who drops the humble brag of the century. With a breezy smile, he claims it's just ordinary medicine, totally oblivious to the fact that he just rewrote the laws of healing right in front of her. Disbelief turns into fanatical awe. As they stare at their healed hands, the knights realize this isn't just medicine, it's a full recovery drug. Leaf tries to play it cool, but the knight physically grabs him, shouting, "I will not be fooled," convinced that this humble boy is actually a secret genius hiding his true power. Gratitude instantly turns into interrogation. She corners him, screaming that restoring a severed arm with simple herbs is impossible. As she leans in close to accuse him of deception, Leaf is left sweating bullets, realizing that being too good at his job has ironically made him a suspect. The interrogation is interrupted by a shout of "My lady," revealing that his accuser is actually high nobility. But she ignores the title, completely fixated on the impossibility of what she just witnessed. She admits that even the world's best healer couldn't pull this off, leaving poor Leaf literally spinning in confusion at the sudden escalation. The tension breaks, but Leaf gets no breathing room. The younger girl leans in aggressively close, marked by the bold sound effect, to pour out her gratitude. Her genuine, blushing thanks completely catches him off guard, leaving him stunned as the dynamic snaps instantly from suspicious interrogation to overwhelming appreciation. The gratitude turns into a relentless verbal barrage. She's literally talking circles around him, praising his compassion nonstop. Leaf is totally overwhelmed, just trying to ask who they actually are, but she ignores him to escalate the praise, calling him practically divine, with starstruck eyes, before finally composing herself to reveal her true identity. And then comes the formal reveal. With a radiant smile that lights up the panel, she introduces herself as Priscilla Fan Graham. The text bubbles confirm the massive scale of Leaf's accidental heroism. He hasn't just saved a traveler, he's saved the daughter of a duke, and his fortunes are about to flip. She grabs his hands tight, declaring their meeting is fate, but the real shock comes next. As the camera zooms into Leaf's stunned eye, she reveals this wasn't a coincidence at all. She traveled all the way from the royal capital specifically hunting for him, driven by desperate rumors of a legendary healer. And finally, the truth drops. To himself, Leaf was just a failed apprentice exiled to the woods, but to the outside world, he is a legend. The falling leaves frame the massive reveal. He isn't a nobody, he is the mythic medicine god of Dead End, and his true journey is just beginning. The invitation changes everything. With an intense, blushing gaze, Priscilla begs him to leave his exile behind and join them in the royal capital. Leaf is left completely breathless, is stunned. Wide-eyed reaction confirms that the homeless boy who thought his life was over has just been handed a brand new destiny. Leaf's composure instantly crumbles. The moment he registers the feeling of her soft hands, his brain short-circuits into a hilarious, high-pitched scream. He frantically apologizes, admitting he's only ever treated old people, proving that despite his godlike medical skills, he has absolutely zero experience with girls his own age. Leaf instantly shuts down the hype. He flatly denies being the god of medicine, leaving Priscilla completely confused. Then, he immediately spirals into panic, apologizing profusely just for speaking up, proving that while his healing skills are god tier, his self-esteem is still sitting at rock bottom. Leaf humbly deflects the title, assuming she must mean his late master, Asclepius, which leaves Priscilla shocked to hear the legend is gone. But the solemn moment instantly turns awkward. Leaf reverts right back to his shy self, blushing and fidgeting nervously as he struggles to stammer out a simple question. The awkward conversation is violently interrupted by a nightmare ambush. A pack of colossal wolves encircles the group, dwarfing the humans with their sheer size. Leaf's quiet admission that he has nowhere to go takes on a terrifying literal meaning. He isn't just homeless anymore. He is trapped in a cage of fangs. The knight screams out the horrifying truth. This isn't a random encounter. The dire wolf they fought earlier didn't just run away. It retreated to gather an army. The wide shot reveals the nightmare scenario. The beast has returned with friends, and the group is now trapped in the center of a coordinated, lethal ambush. Priscilla screams for her guardian, Lilith, but receives only a chilling silence in return. The knight turns her back, stoically preparing to face the horde alone, while the camera cuts to Priscilla collapsing in fear, realizing her protector is preparing to make the ultimate sacrifice right before her eyes. The grim math of survival sets in here. Lilith knows that a single beast nearly wiped them out, so facing an entire pack is a guaranteed death sentence. The close-up captures her absolute resignation, sweating and trembling as she internally accepts the end, delivering the chilling final through verdict. The ranks as the knights accept their grisly fate. Lilith prepares to sacrifice herself as a final distraction to save her mistress. But she's interrupted. A single, determined footstep hits the dirt. Leaf isn't running away. He is stepping right into the line of fire. While the knights brace for a slaughter, Leaf steps forward with zero fear. He casually addresses these nightmare beasts as pups, confused by their presence rather than terrified. This moment completely flips the script. He isn't looking at them as monsters to be slain, but as naughty pets that have wandered too far from home. Lilith's panic hits a breaking point. She screams, "Get down, young man," desperately trying to save him. She acknowledges his healing skill, but believes he is physically defenseless against the pack, while the princess watches in horrified silence, expecting him to be torn apart. The knight screams that he's defenseless, terrified because healers aren't supposed to fight. But look at Leaf, he's completely unfazed by the giant jaws looming right behind him. Instead of running, he reaches into his pouch with lightning speed, preparing to counter the beast not with a sword, but with the raw power of medicinal herbs. Overwhelming. The wolf is a literal wall of muscle and teeth. But Leaf defies all logic. Instead of running, he steps directly into the danger zone with the confident combat stance. The bewildered WHAT floating in the air perfectly captures the knight's disbelief as she watches the defenseless healer actually take the offensive. Leaf flips the script on what a healer is. He calmly explains that medicine is just chemistry, dosage, and application. But then he shows the dark side. By intentionally ignoring the safety limits, he turns a cure into a weapon, blasting the wolf with a massive paralytic shockwave that stops the monster dead in its tracks. The scene pivots from defense to offense with the chilling subversion of medical terms. The text reads prescription, but the visual of the crushing hand implies violence. Then, the drop. Leaf's hand is stained black, his eyes turn cold, and the medicine is revealed to be a lethal toxin, proving he can take life just as easily as he saves it. Leaf charges into battle with a casual trivia question. As he stomps forward asking, "Hey Priscilla, did you know?" The scene cuts to her pure shock. She and the audience are about to learn that for a master healer, the difference between a cure and a poison is often just a matter of intent. The battle ends in an instant. Leaf unleashes the full force of his lethal toxin, blasting the entire wolf pack away with a single, devastating wave. As Priscilla recounts the legend of a savior who watches over the world, the visuals confirm the truth. The mythic god of medicine isn't a ghost from the past, he is the boy standing right in front of her. The impact is devastating. Leaf stands his ground as the toxin erupts like a physical shockwave. The massive wolves are blown back like dried leaves, completely overwhelmed by a power that blurs the line between healing and destruction. The aftermath leaves the group in a mix of starry-eyed worship and jaw-dropping disbelief. But Leaf completely ignores the awe. Walking away cool as a cucumber, he introduces himself and drops the ultimate humble brag, apologizing for being a rookie who is actually ashamed of the god-tier miracle he just performed. And finally, the call to adventure is answered. Leaf turns back, cheeks flushed red with shyness, and timidly asks if he can join them in the capital. It's a perfect character moment. The boy who just single-handedly annihilated a monster pack is now too nervous to simply ask for a ride, proving his heart is just as pure as his power is terrifying. The chapter closes with a lingering shot of the map, re-establishing Dead End as a remote, forgotten corner of the kingdom. But then, the panel drops to pitch black, creating a dramatic narrative pause. The text teases a final secret. To the outside world, this humble village is known by a much more legendary name. The final twist drops the curtain. Dead End isn't a sleepy backwater, it's the village of heroes. That nice old lady with hip pain? A superclass witch. The grumpy old man? A legendary hero. Leaf wasn't just a country doctor. He spent his entire life keeping the most powerful people in history alive, making his skills and his exile even more extraordinary. And so, the prologue ends with a promise. The text confirms the series' true premise. This is the tale of a boy raised by legends, finally stepping out of their shadow. As the leaves fall around them, the story shifts from a tragic exile into the grand adventure of a humble healer about to make his name across the world. And here is the satisfying payoff. The arrogant Baron, who stood so tall before, is now reduced to a pathetic heap on the floor. The visual of him in a full dojeza sweating and desperate signals his complete downfall, showing that all his stolen titles couldn't save him when reality finally hit. Standing above the groveling Baron is Priscilla, wearing the most dangerous expression in anime history, the gentle, closed-eye smile. She doesn't need to scream. Her calm silence radiates absolute authority, letting the Baron know that the power dynamic has completely flipped and his fate is now entirely in her hands. Leaf demonstrates the terrifying duality of his power here. He starts with simple drug creation, grinding herbs by hand, but instantly twists it into a lethal poison. The visual shift is drastic. His hand turns pitch black with toxic energy, proving to Priscilla that the line between a life-saving doctor and a deadly killer is just a matter of dosage. This close-up drives the point home. Leaf's hand is engulfed in pitch black energy, physically manifesting the lethal toxin. It's a striking visual contrast. The healer's hand has become a weapon of death. And that piercing glare, it confirms that for this moment, the gentle doctor has completely left the building. The payoff is explosive. Leaf stands firm, a tiny figure against a towering nightmare. But notice the jagged energy lines ripping through the wolf. That's the toxin hitting its nervous system instantly. It visually proves that against Leaf's absolute mastery of chemistry, even the brute strength of a giant monster doesn't stand a chance.